when the embroidered shoes of the East wrap around a young girl's bones, when the corsets of Victorian society squeeze the body into unnatural curves. Another blade in the deserts of Africa is also tearing open the wounds of a different civilization.
They did not do it to you? Your mother?
No. They don't do it to anyone here.
She is an apple bitten by God, yet from the missing piece of flower has somehow grown. Today's film recommendation is Desert Flower. In the Somali desert of 1970, the blazing sun heats the sand until it burns. A 3-year-old girl slowly walks toward a pile of stones, guided by her mother. An elderly woman from the tribe has already been waiting there for a long time. She takes a rusted blade from her bag and slowly reaches toward the girl's body. The moment the blade cuts across her flesh, her screams seem to tear apart the silence of the desert. There is no anesthesia and no sterilization, only a few thorn branches stained with blood. And with that, her first ritual in life is completed. The girl is named Waris, a name that in Somali means desert flower. Yet at this moment, her life is more like a wild plant torn from the ground, curled helplessly upon a sand dune as fate roars past. A gentle breeze loosens the buttons of sand, and suddenly vultures from the desert appear, their diving arcs slicing through the sky as if ready to claim what has been taken from the girl. After everything is done, Waris is left behind on the ground. If she does not lose too much blood and survive the next day, she will be taken back and raised as usual. Perhaps it is the mercy of fortune, or perhaps simply the stubborn desire to live. Waris manages to hold on, but fate still shows little kindness to this girl. And when she turns 12, hardship arrives again. The very next day, her father exchanges her for 5 camels and gives her to an old man in the neighboring village, where she becomes his 4th wife. Waris stares at the man's loose and aging teeth, and her eyes fill with disappointment. She refuses to spend her life this way, so under the cover of night she runs barefoot into the darkness. Tears hide in her mother's eyes as she watches her daughter disappear into the distance without saying a word, because she knows this is Waris' only chance to escape. When the desert moon becomes as cold as ice, Waris runs wildly across the dunes with bare feet. Sharp stones pierce the bottoms of her feet, and the sand cuts her skin until her soles are torn and bleeding. She does not care about the pain, compared with being forced to marry a 60-year-old man. This sting means nothing. When she is tired, she lies down on the ground to sleep, and when hunger strikes, she eats leaves to survive. Her darkened feet rub against the cracked earth, as if silently protesting the unfairness of fate. After 2 days and 1 night of fleeing, she finally stops a truck on the roadside. The driver pretends to be kind and agrees to give her a ride. Yet in the middle of the night, he suddenly turns toward her. Waris struggles in fear and desperation, grabbing a stone and striking him until she manages to escape. She staggers forward step by step and eventually arrives in Mogadishu, where she finds her grandmother. Her grandmother feels deep sympathy for Waris, but the rest of the family does not welcome her presence, so the grandmother secretly arranges a passport for her and sends her to distant England to work as a maid for the wife of the Somali ambassador in London. At the moment she steps onto the airplane, she looks back at the land that once wounded her, tears sliding down her cheeks as she quietly buries the pain of her childhood. For 6 years living in the basement of the Somali embassy, Waris works like a silent worker ant. She presses her ear against the door to secretly listen to television programs and learn English. And after cleaning the bathroom, she sometimes smiles at herself in the mirror. Everything seems peaceful and ordinary, until the outbreak of the Somali civil war shatters the calm once again. All embassy personnel are ordered to leave the country immediately, and Waris is no exception. She refuses to return to the land filled with nightmares, so she digs up the passport she buried in the soil, gathers a few clothes, and escapes without hesitation. Without the protection of the embassy, Waris begins wandering the streets of London. She searches through trash bins for moldy bread, collects coins left behind in public phone booths, and curls up behind pieces of cardboard in corners to survive each difficult night. Until one day, she meets a British girl in the restroom with bright red lipstick, a sharp tongue, but a surprisingly soft heart. Her name is Marilyn.
How many years, you, in London? Do you understand me? 6 years and you still don't speak English.
Today is your lucky day.
Is it? Brilliant.
It is that simple, warm conversation that makes Marilyn begin to like her a little. Seeing that Waris has nowhere to go, Marilyn takes her back to her apartment to stay for the night. The next morning, when Marilyn wakes up, she finds the room spotless and a cup of coffee waiting beside her bed. At that moment, Marilyn finally lets go of her guard toward Waris and introduces her to a job at a fast food restaurant. And it is also here that the turning point of her destiny quietly begins. One day, a well-known photographer named Donaldson comes in for a meal and unexpectedly notices Waris's face. Her features are sharp like the cliffs of the desert. Her eyes hold a wild amber glow. And together with her flawless chocolate-colored skin, he instantly knows that this is the face he has been searching for. He hands Waris a business card and asks if she would like to become his model. Waris says nothing. She simply slips the card into her pocket. In the days that follow, Marilyn and Waris become friends who share everything with each other. They laugh and play inside the apartment, and in their spare time they help each other practice English. Their lives becoming warm and full of small joys, until one day a repairman named Neil brings another rejection letter, and Marilyn once again breaks down. It turns out she has always dreamed of entering a dance academy, but no matter how hard she tries, the schools keep rejecting her for different reasons. To comfort her friend, Waris suggests that they go dancing together that evening. Inside the dance hall, Marilyn moves like a flame finally released from its chains, twisting her body wildly with the thunderous rhythm as if trying to shake every ounce of frustration from her heart. Waris, who is new to all of this, looks awkward and uncertain. She simply stands to the side with a quiet smile, watching everything unfold. But in a fleeting moment, her eyes are drawn to a man in the distance. Yet because of her insecurity, she quickly looks away. The young black man clearly notices her as well and walks over to start a conversation. Looking at the handsome and gentle man in front of her, Waris begins to feel her heart stir. Under the romantic atmosphere of the dance hall, the distance between them grows smaller and smaller. But before anything can go further, a sudden fear rises in Waris's heart. She pushes him away and rushes out the door. She stands by the river breathing heavily, as if only the cold wind of the night can calm the emotions surging inside her. When she returns home, she accidentally walks in on Marilyn sharing an intimate moment with her boyfriend. The sight shocks her deeply, and she even begins to think her friend must be a bad woman. Yet this very night also makes her realize that she is different from other girls.
Only a cat woman is a good woman.
Okay, now you're gonna have to teach me English.
This is how she stays a virgin, yes? Until her wedding night, and then her man opens her. That's the way, isn't it?
What do you mean? Did they cut something away from you? Can you show me?
Her friend's words confuse Waris, so she lifts her dress and reveals the old scar on her body.
They cut everything away and then sewed it up. When did this happen?
When I was little. 3 years old.
Is that why you take time in the bathroom?
That's what it is to be a woman.
To help Waris understand the truth, Marilyn lowers her own skirt. Only at that moment does Waris finally realize that not every woman in the world goes through the same ritual. In that instant, her entire world collapses. She understands that she is not some pure saint, but someone whose body has been marked by a harsh tradition. The next day, Waris sits on a bench chatting with her friend and takes out the business card the photographer had given her earlier. Marilyn has far more knowledge of the world than Waris. She knows that Donaldson is very famous in the industry, and if he truly notices Waris, she could earn a great deal of money in the future. Just as the two begin imagining what the future might look like, Waris suddenly feels a sharp pain in her stomach. After her friend brings her to the hospital, they finally learn that this pain is a long-lasting effect from the ritual she experienced as a child. Under the harsh white lights of the hospital, the doctor is shocked by the damage to her body and wants to do everything he can to help this unfortunate girl.
I can't give you back what's been taken away, but at least I can make sure it won't hurt, okay?
For this reason he even calls in a male nurse from Somalia to help translate. But when the doctor's words pass through the man's mouth, they become something that feels like poison poured directly into her wound.
haddii aad bedesho waxaa tahay waxaa siraysaa waalidkaa dadkaaga iyo dhaqankaaga isku xishood wejigaaga ma arki karo hooyadaa ma ogtaa waxaa samaynaysid she'll think about it.
Overwhelmed and broken, Waris runs out into the world, where the wind of London cuts through the night with biting cold. The reflection in a shop window shows her wrapped in a heavy coat. She is the same girl who once ran through the desert, and also a lonely figure trapped between two very different worlds. And the girls inside the shop window, are they really any different from Waris? For some of them, even showing their faces to the world is considered a rare luxury. At that moment, her grandmother's words seem to explode in her ears. All this suffering must be for something meaningful. Thinking of this, Waris strengthens her resolve and returns to the hospital to accept the surgery. She takes this step with unwavering determination, because what the surgical blade opens is not only the wound that was once sealed, but also the ignorance that has bound her life for so long. After the operation, determined to build a better future, Waris clutches Donaldson's business card and walks into his studio. When they first meet, she is as nervous as a startled deer. The flashing lights sting her eyes, the high heels make her stumble like a child, and even the way she turns still carries the awkwardness of a shepherd girl. Yet Donaldson sees within her sharp features a raw and natural beauty. He patiently guides her to relax her body, helping her gaze grow more confident and alive. Under the camera, her skin carries the rugged spirit of the desert, but deep within her eyes burns an unextinguished fire. As photo after photo is taken, they capture not only her beauty, but also become a declaration of her breaking away from the past. After the shooting is finished, because of Waris's extraordinary performance, the company decides to give her the chance to step onto a much larger stage. But fate delivers another cruel twist. Just as she is about to step onto the runway in Paris, her expired passport pushes her into a crisis and she is even taken into custody. It turns out that Waris's passport had already expired 6 years earlier, and if she cannot resolve the problem soon, she will be sent back to Somalia. She collapses onto a cold chair, tears falling silently as her nails press deeply into her palms. Yet even that pain cannot match the ache tearing through her heart. Only after her friend pays the bail is she finally released.
All you had to do was extend your passport. One stamp. That's all it would have taken.
I didn't know.
We're granting you a limited permit to remain in the UK. You must report to immigration once a week. Any infringements, and you'll be deported.
Now Waris has been granted temporary permission to remain in Britain, but she knows this cannot last forever. She walks through the crowded streets, seeing her own poster hanging high on a building. Yet the irony is that there is still no place here that truly belongs to her. After receiving temporary residency permission, Waris once again finds herself struggling during a new advertisement shoot. This time, Donaldson wants to reveal a different side of her beauty. For someone who grew up under strict ideas and limitations, this becomes another great challenge. When the spotlight shines on her body, she instinctively curls up and tries to cover herself. But with Donaldson's encouragement, she finally begins to smile. Slowly, she starts to open her posture, and under the camera her eyes become calm and bright. This body that was once sealed and controlled now transforms into a symbol shaped by the desert wind, and every scar becomes a mark of resistance. In order to obtain permanent residency, Waris decides to enter a marriage arrangement with the repairman Neil. They make an agreement that once Waris receives permanent residency, they will go through the process of ending the marriage. But how could things ever be as simple as they had imagined? To deal with sudden inspections from the immigration office, Waris has no choice but to endure Neil's constant harassment, even pretending to be a loving couple in front of others. On the night she shares a bed with Neil, she wraps herself tightly like a cocoon, every inch of her skin tense like a drawn string, each breath filled with the suffocating feeling of betraying everything she once believed in. Yet this compromise that appears humiliating is actually a gamble she throws against fate, using a staged marriage to earn the right to tear open the cracks of a rigid world. Until one morning, she finally receives a letter from the immigration office.
Indefinite leave to remain.
At that moment, she takes off the ring and quietly says goodbye to the person she once was. Finally, she boards a flight to Paris. On the runway, surrounded by dazzling lights and countless cameras. She walks forward with firm steps and a proud posture, wearing famous designer outfits and calmly displaying her extraordinary beauty. Waris's features are deep and sculpted. Her skin shines like a black pearl, and especially those eyes filled with stories make people unable to look away. This unique and striking presence instantly makes her the center of attention on the runway. Soon Waris becomes the darling of the fashion world, and everyone wants to know how a girl who once herded goats could become a global supermodel. Yet during an interview with a magazine editor, she chooses to reveal the painful truth of her past.
I was 3 years old, and the night before I was given an extra portion of rice. My wound became infected and I developed a high fever, and the inner and outer lips of the vulva are cut away. I went back to the rocks once. Everything was gone. It was eaten by the birds.
After hearing Waris's story, the editor is already overwhelmed with emotion. She never imagined that behind such a glamorous and confident supermodel there could be such a difficult childhood. After the interview is published, it quickly causes a powerful reaction around the world, and even the United Nations begins to pay attention and invites Waris to speak. To stand before the world and reveal such personal wounds carries unimaginable pressure, yet she does not choose to retreat.
I love my mother. I love my family. And I love Africa. For over 3,000 years, the family truly believes that a daughter who is not circumcised is not clean, because what exists between our legs is unclean. So it must be removed and sealed up as proof of virginity and virtue. And in the wedding night, the husband takes a blade or a knife and cuts it open before he forces himself into his bride. How much stronger would our continent be if this senseless ritual were abolished? There is a proverb in my country: the last camel in line walks as quickly as the first. Whatever happens to the least of us has an effect on all of us. When I was a child, I said, I do not want to be a woman. Why, when it is so painful and so unhappy? But now that I am grown, I am proud to be who I am. But for the sake of all of us, let us try and change what that means to be a woman.
This film was based on the real-life experience of the famous model Waris Dirie. In 1997, she left the modeling industry and began serving as a United Nations Special Representative. And she also founded the Desert Dawn Foundation, dedicating herself to ending this harmful tradition and becoming a symbol of resistance against gender-based violence. Through the efforts of Waris and many people across society, more than 28 countries have passed laws to ban this practice. But as of 2025, there are still around 130 million women around the world who continue to suffer from its impact. As Waris once said, "If my suffering can light the path for others, then every scar becomes a medal." In this story there are no princes and no magic. There is only one woman who uses her own blood-stained footprints to break the chains of the world. The light in her eyes is not the reflection of diamonds. It is the spark that pierces the darkness. The film Desert Flower uses powerful images to carve out the thorn-filled path of Waris Dirie, from her escape across the desert to her rebirth. This life story, tempered by hardship and courage, begins with the harsh ritual of an ancient tribe and ends with a voice that awakens the world. Through her struggle against fate, Waris ultimately wins the freedom of a new beginning. Some people hold a cup of coffee and admire the wild beauty of a model, while others under the lights of the runway begin to sense the hidden wounds within civilization. When the simple cloth of a shepherd girl and the elegant dresses of a supermodel both touch the same body, when the stars of the desert sky and the flash of cameras compete for the focus of her eyes, those of us watching suddenly step into a bright daylight, and only then do we realize that every desert flower blooms only after tearing through pain. Some flowers bloom not to be admired, but to pierce the darkness, and some forms of pressure have existed for a long time. Yet sometimes the ones who resist are those who once seemed the weakest. My commentary can never replace the original film, and a good movie is always worth watching more than once. See you in the next episode.